Welcome to #GoalTheShow.
My name is Blimie Heller. I'm a parenting coach and educator. So I give parenting courses and I also coach parents. I'm originally from Toronto. I currently live in Lakewood, New Jersey, but I do travel in the tri-state area to give my courses.
We were talking about difficult children.
Okay.
And we put difficult in quotes because that's a broad term.
Yes. Also, I really don't like when we call children difficult. I just don't like when we call children any negative term. I think that when we see things a certain way, we relate to it as if they are that way, and that's always counterproductive. I don't believe they want to be difficult or they're trying to be difficult. I think that it's a misunderstanding of what's happening.
But what makes a child difficult?
There's so many reasons. One of the biggest ones is that they actually lack the skills not to be. It's called like they have lagging skills, just like they're not able to deal with frustration as well. They're not able to transition as well. These are all skills that we develop over time, and some kids, like, they lag behind with these skills. They eventually catch up with our help, but so that's usually why children are difficult.
When they're lagging, what kind of tools do we need as parents to give them that push?
So usually what we do is with children who are lagging skills is that we demand that they have those skills when they don't.
Right.
We usually do this right now, do whatever, which only exacerbates the issue and makes the child even act out more because they're getting even more frustrated. So really the way to do it is to work with them, is to problem solve with them. You sit down and have a conversation and you work proactively to help them in those situations. Like, what should they do to help them along? And that's how you help children develop skills. There's no way to actually make them have the skill. It's something that happens with maturity and over time and with your help. There's two different personalities. There's people who are prone to being true to themselves and people who would much rather get along with another person even if it's at the expense of themselves.
Right.
So these children will not do that. So if a parent says, do something that a child feels is betraying themselves, they won't. And they'll stand up for themselves. They'll be like, I'm not going to do that. And the parent's like, you're so stubborn, you're so difficult.
Right.
But the child's really just standing up for themselves.
You talk about tantrums and toddlers a lot. And I think everyone can relate to that in some form or another. How can you work with a tantrum-prone child that's not being receptive? Because you have a lot of advice on how to connect with them, understand that they're frustrated, and don't get frustrated with them, but understand them. But what if a child's not being receptive to that?
Right. So you're right, that's exactly the right approach, is that you just remain calm, you be there for your child in whichever form that they need. Some kids, if you try to connect too much, that aggravates them more. Some kids, it's just being there. Now, the goal is never to get them to stop tantruming. See, what tantrums are is basically feelings that are out of control. Emotional regulation, which is the ability to regulate your emotions.
Right.
We are not born with that skill. It's something that develops over time. Just like a baby cries all the time, right? And as they get older, they start whining more, start crying less. But they have tantrums when the emotions overwhelm them and there's no break. See, in our brain, we have like a brake that puts a brake on the emotion, sort of, or can't. They don't have that, so it's just like emotions on steroids, like out of control, and they just have to move through those feelings. The public opinion is very hard for parents. We feel like they're judging us, at least, and like, what's wrong with your child? Like, even though every single toddler tantrum.
Can a child live in a stable, healthy environment and still have tendencies to act out?
For sure. Children acting out doesn't necessarily have to do with the fact that the home is not stable or whatever. There's so many reasons why children act out. Like I said, they can have lagging skills. Behavior is communication. So, right? So if your child's doing something, they're just communicating something to you, and it doesn't have to be anything dramatic or whatever. Sometimes it's just small things, like I said, like emotions. It's just coming out at this moment.
How can you teach a young child or toddler want versus need? You don't need that toy, you want that toy.
I believe you have to give children everything they need, but not everything they want. Actually, very little of what they want. I have self-control, and so I have inner discipline that says no, you can't have that. Toddlers don't have that. They don't have self-control, so we're that control where we say, no, you can't have that. No, it's not. So you can't really teach them. It's something that develops over time, really with development. Your job is really just to say no.
What's your take on rewarding and bribing? Like, oh, if you finish your homework, you get chocolate.
I absolutely do not believe in rewards or bribing because this comes from the same reason I don't believe in punishments.
Right.
So it comes from the same idea that basically children would not act well or would not act behave the way we want them to without us pulling strings somehow. So that's basically, we want to teach our children to be good for the sake of being good, and we believe that they are good and they could be, and they could.
You talk about unconditional love in your Insta stories, and you talk about lumping together behavior and feelings. And then you also talk about empathy. So can you explain all that for our viewers watching?
People think, and I've seen people even say this, that they believe unconditional love means I unconditionally accept your behavior, which is so detrimental. Like, no, I can accept you and who you are, but not your behavior. Your behavior is separate from you. We accept the person's feelings unconditionally because that's so much more intrinsic to who they are than their behavior. If my child is very angry and hits her sibling, I will then, and this is where empathy comes in, the way you unconditionally accept a person's feelings is through empathy. So I'll say, so usually people say, it's like, you can't hit, blah, 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 right? Now the child gets the feeling like, oh, I must be bad, or they get a bad feeling about themselves, even though you're trying to say the hitting is wrong. And even though you've never said they're bad, even though some parents do say that, but we know not to do that, right? But even so, our children still don't get the message that, oh, I'm okay and who I am is lovable. We say, oh, first we offer empathy, and we say, oh, you're really angry? You didn't want her to take the toy? Right? You were feeling so angry and that's why you hit her. But I can't let you hit, or it's never okay to hit another person. And that's when you're saying the behavior's not okay, but how you feel and the way you felt about it is completely normal and okay.
I love how everything you say makes sense. What I love is that no matter how old your children are, we've all been there. Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say that. It's like, it's human relationship building, and it's so informative. How can you get to really know your child? You talk about knowing your children, no matter what age they are.
We just focus on behavior. We almost become like the behavior police. Our children doesn't go, oh, what do we do with this behavior? So we're not connecting to the child, and we're not connecting to why they did that and who they are underneath the behavior. We're just focusing on the behavior. With this approach, because we're always focusing on why did they do this,
right?
And let me, and also what's the feeling behind it, right? And what are their needs? You have to be deeply attuned to the child. It trains you to be attuned to the child. Mainstream parenting approach is very child-centered.
Yeah.
This is very parent-centered.
Right, and I love it, and that's so much. Like I said, I love that about being a parent because I have never been more self-aware in my entire life. Same. So all this talk about parenting and your approach, and I would love to get into more about you and how you got into this. First of all, how do you know so much?
First, naturally, I thought I was going to become a therapist when I grew up because I was, always, I understood people, I think, very well. I didn't like the one-on-one. It felt a little too heavy for me. And then I became a parent. And I always knew I wanted to be a really good parent. I had no idea what that meant. It hit me, and I was like, the way I'm parenting, first of all, I felt guilty all the time about what I was doing. And I was like, the way I'm parenting is just not working. And I was like, I always told myself I'm going to be a good parent. I was like, I'm going to, stick by that promise. And I decided to commit to finding a way, finding a path that made sense to me and that would really work and that I felt not guilty about and I felt worked for my child. And I just read really all this information has just accumulated. I've read so much, and then as I read things that really made sense, I started adopting them in my home with my daughter. It became I became so passionate about it. I was like, look at this, and by the way, my daughter changed before my eyes. She didn't change actually, her personality and who she is in essence never changed, and it's not going to, and it doesn't have to. But the way we related changed. I allowed her to have a say and to be a person, and I gave her a voice. And I'm her mother, I'm an authority figure to her, but I'm also her friend. Everything I'm saying is just small, little, tiny pieces of a bigger picture.
Yes.
There's always more. There's so much more information and there's so much more to understand because people have questions. What about this and what about Instagram?
So I want to jump on that. You can contact Blimie and watch her lives.
There's just so much more information, so that's why my course. But even then, I can't even cover everything, but it's really comprehensive.
All right, so get on that. We should totally do this again without a camera. If you enjoy watching Blimie and if you agree that she has #goals, then please be sure to like this video and subscribe for more #goals the show. Woo! That was great.